Echo 5, do you copy? Echo 5.
Echo 2, good morning. Nice of you to drop by.
Feeling alright, sir? Thought we lost you.
Right now, I feel like I can take on this whole podcast myself.
I know what you mean. Ready to send that transmission to Echo Base?
Yes, sir. R10, patch through.
Alright, hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Hoth Transmissions. Today we are going to have a special guest joining us here at the Echo Base. We got Spectre-4 himself of the Ghost Crew, Gerzeb Aurelius, Mr. Steve Blum. So welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Very happy to be doing anything. And a little bit quiet on Lyrasan.
I believe it was, especially with the Empire being defeated and all.
Thanks for having me. This is fun.
Yeah, absolutely, man.
Been threatening to do this together for a long time.
We have, and I'm excited that we're finally able to kind of sit down and be able to talk.
Yeah, me too.
So, for a lot of our fans that are joining us, a lot of our followers that are kind of jumping into the whole Star Wars franchise, and if you haven't gotten to Rebels yet, my cousin, he plays Gerzeb Aurelius. He's in Rebels. Highly recommend watching it.
Me too.
Let's go ahead and tell a little bit about yourself.
Oh, well, I'm a voice actor. I've been doing this for over 30 years. Started in anime and on a show called The Guyver back when they didn't even call it anime. They used to call it Japanimation. And accidentally got into the business and just did it for fun on the side for about 10 years until finally booked the role of the guy who said, "Oh, thank heaven" on the 7-Eleven commercials, and thought that was my big break and quit my job. Wow. I had a great day job. I was head of marketing at a film company and quit my job and went into voiceover full time, and then was out of work for a year and a half because the union went on strike. But stayed with it because I love to do it. Eventually started doing video games and original animation, and got some bigger roles that really sustained me for a while. I've been doing the voice of Wolverine for many, many years now for animated and game projects. And Starscream from Transformers, lots and lots of stuff in the Star Wars universe. Have worked on most of the games in Star Wars and worked on a few of the movies, Rogue One and Solo and Rise of Skywalker. Yeah, so I've been really, really lucky. They've been really great to me at Lucasfilm. And that's been one of my favorite parts of my job is working in the Star Wars universe because I'm a Star Wars fan too. I'm not a good nerd like you are, but I'm definitely a fan of it. And I was there the weekend that the original Star Wars opened in 1977 and saw it opening weekend. So I've been a fan since then. I was just fresh out of high school at the time. Yes, I am that old.
Sorry, young at heart.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm 8-year-old in a 62-year-old soup. So yeah, that's but I love what I do, and I still do voiceover every day. I'm still doing Toonami. I've been doing Toonami for probably about 20 years now.
That's right, because you're Tom.
I'm Tom from Adult Swim, yeah, on Toonami every Saturday night, only Toonami.
Very cool, very cool. I remember growing up watching Toonami, and I was like always excited to hear. I'm like, I know that voice. It's actually pretty funny because like you mentioned like all the projects you've done, like even like in Mortal Kombat. I was playing Mortal Kombat with a couple friends.
Oh yeah.
And I was playing. Sub-Zero is one of my favorite characters, so he's usually the one that I usually go to. Him and Reptile.
Oh, nice.
And I was sitting there listening to the voices, and I'm like, I know that voice. And I looked it up. I'm like, yep, I knew exactly who it was.
Oh, nice.
So it's really cool.
Chill.
There you go. Yep. And I know a lot of my friends that are like really excited. They really like, was it Tank Dempsey?
Oh yeah, splattering gutbags, hoorah!
Yeah. So it's really cool to kind of like follow you with all your projects and stuff. And me being a Star Wars fan myself, I think it's been really cool to kind of like follow your career into Rebels, um, just because you played a major role, a really really cool character. And I know a lot of followers that I have, like whenever I mention Rebels, a lot of people are like, oh yeah, Rebels, isn't that great? And the one thing that I usually hear them say is just because of animation. But once I get them, I'll challenge them to watch it. And once they watch it, they're like, you know what, you're right. It's like this is a really fun show because a lot of people compare it a lot to the Clone Wars, which is more of an anthology setting. So it's like jumping around from scene story to story,
Yeah.
and Rebels a little bit more story based.
Yeah, Rebels is really connective tissue in the Star Wars
It
universe.
really is,
It,
especially in a lot of stuff today.
yeah. Oh, yeah. Everything that's happening now has roots back to that show. And things were explained in that show that were not previously explained, and they've just been able to expand on that. It's really exciting to see that.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
absolutely.
And
Uh,
that show also brought in a lot of the old Ralph McQuarrie designs, which hadn't been used prior to that. And Zeb was based on the original Ralph McQuarrie design for Chewbacca.
that's right. I was going to mention that it's
Yeah, it was
because
the non-hairy Wookiee.
hmm and I know they implemented the Lasat look in the, I think it was like the Star Wars D&D, and then Rebels took it in and made it canon. Because I know the D&D and stuff is a lot of legend stuff, and so it's really cool to kind of see that whole aspect jumping
Yeah,
onto the screen into
yeah,
animation.
yeah. I was just excited for a gig. I had no idea it was going to be that cool.
Yeah, I was gonna say, what got you into the playing Zeb? Did you just send in an audition, or was it more of
Yeah,
like your agent contacted you and said, "Hey, we got this gig, try out
well,
for it"?
it happened pretty much like most gigs happen. My agent every day will send me some auditions. She just sends me an email with sides with auditions, and we don't know what they are when we're auditioning. And so at the time, they were calling Rebels Wolf, I believe, and stormtroopers were just listed as troopers or warriors or something like that. And so it was all encrypted. Everything was encrypted. And so I read for it like I read for everything else, and I thought it kind of felt familiar, but I never anticipate that it might be Star Wars or some huge franchise. And I just give everything equal weight. It doesn't matter what the project is. I give everything I have, and hope for the best and let it go. And a couple months later, they called and they had a callback for me. So they had me redo my audition, but with some more direction. And apparently they liked that. And then they brought me over to Disney, and I met with Dave Filoni and a lot of the crew. I think Carrie Beck was there, and a lot of the people who are currently still working on Star Wars projects. And they were just on the other side of the glass, and there was a bunch of us sitting in the waiting room, going in one at a time. And I think that's when they told me it was for a Star Wars project. We had to sign NDAs at the time, but it still didn't really sink in. And I didn't know what the project was, and everything was still encrypted. And we tried probably 20 different dialects for Zeb. They just kept calling it out, and I was like a dancing monkey. German, now Italian, now French, now Caribbean. Let's just try everything. Middle Eastern, Eastern European, and I just, like I do, that's the job, is we just jump from one dialect to another. And I thought, okay, I think I did pretty good. I don't know. And then I think it was about a month later, I was in England doing a Transformers convention, and I got a call from my agent. She said, "Well, guess what?" And I said, "What?" And she said, "You booked Star Wars." And I said, "No, that's impossible." And she said, "No, you did, and they want to do it while you're there. So we're finding you a studio." And I went, "Oh my God." That was when I first got there. I was there for, I think, a couple of weeks. And so they find me the studio in the middle of nowhere. It was in this guy's house. He had a big studio in London, but he preferred to work out of his house out in the suburbs near Birmingham. That's where the convention was. And so I went out there, and I'm such an idiot. I was so busy and so entrenched in the Transformers thing, I forgot it was Star Wars by the time I got to the session. And I get into his house, and it was like, they looked like Ma and Pa Kettle. They were this older English couple, very sweet. holding hands as they're greeting me on their front porch as the taxi driver dropped me off. And they
Oh
walked me
wow.
into this beautiful little house. And I thought, okay, so maybe this is, just a test thing or something. I didn't know what it was. My agent really didn't have much information for it. And he hooks me up at the microphone. He's got this little tiny booth, no air conditioning, was boiling hot in there. And they put the sides in front of me, and I'm starting to read through them. And I see stormtroopers on the sides. And that was the thing that finally lodged in my brain that, oh my God, this is Star Wars. And this is a big thing. This is some kind of big project. I didn't know what it was. And I had worked on so many Star Wars games before that I thought, okay, this is cool. I'm working on a Star Wars game or something. It didn't even occur to me that that was the project that I was reading for before. And
Right.
and the whole episode was about my character, about Zeb. It was his not his origin story, but it was that little vignette. Each of the
Hmm.
characters had their own shorts at the time. And I didn't even know it had gone to series at the time. I didn't know. I thought this was just like a one-off little thing, a Star Wars little one-off project like they've done in the past. And Dave Filoni gets on the line. And he goes, Steve, this is going to be a big deal. And so we really want to get this right. And I was thinking, oh my God, what are we talking about? And he goes, yeah, this is going to be a series. So far, I think he said we had 26 episodes and we've got a great cast. And we just want you to do your thing. And I just was screaming inside like an 8-year-old fanboy idiot,
Oh, I believe it.
um, trying to keep my cool on the microphone. And we sort of dialed in the character. Took about a half an hour to dial in the character where they wanted it with the accent and the intention of the character and all that stuff. And then off we went, and we just had fun. And I didn't see them again for, I guess it was probably a couple months later. They called for the first episode to record as a cast, and that's when I met Freddie Prinze Jr. and Taylor and Vanessa, who I've known forever, a great friend who played Hera.
Hmm.
And um, I think Dee Baker was there for the first one. It was crazy. And Dave came into the room, and usually our sessions are booked. It was booked for 4 hours, and the first probably hour and a half was Dave talking to us and just giving us the grand scope of where he wanted the series to go, how he wanted it to tie into canon. And he said, no pressure, but we're going to be bringing a bunch of stuff into canon that people have been wondering about since the inception of Star Wars. So don't screw it up. It was that kind of a conversation.
Oh
And
my
all of us
gosh.
went, oh my God. Tia Sircar, of course, was there, Sabine. And
Hmm.
and those guys, Tia and Taylor, really weren't familiar with Star Wars at all. I don't know if they had ever seen Star Wars. Um, and Freddie was a connoisseur of Star Wars. I think Sam Witwer was there behind the glass, who just sort of trolled us for every session. But
Oh
he and
yeah, I
Dave,
know. He's like a huge fan.
yeah, and he and Dave are really good friends. So he was there, kind of cheering us on and giving us some input. And Dee came up to me. I remember in that first session where we worked as a group, and Dee came up to me and he said, "Welcome to the Star Wars universe for real." He knew I had worked in the games, but this was different. And he said,
Yeah.
"Your life is about to change," and he was absolutely right. It was crazy from that point on. I've never experienced anything like that in my career. And the press junkets and the panels that we did at San Diego Comic-Con, and it was just bananas. I've never experienced anything like that before.
Oh yeah. Like I can only imagine because I remember I think it was what Orlando is the Star Wars Celebration that I was able to hang out with you when you're even doing your signings.
Yeah, yeah, that was
And
the
I remember
beginning.
one of my favorite things about that was like not only seeing you, but like I remember we were walking, we dropped by the bathroom, and then you're like, "Oh, I thought you saw Freddie walk in." I'm like, "Oh, I was on my phone. I was completely oblivious." And then you're like, "Yeah, he's in the bathroom." I'm like, "Oh, okay, darn, I missed my chance to meet him." And then we walked
Oh,
back to the green room, and I remember we see Freddie, and Freddie's like, "No, no, 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 come talk to me, come talk to me."
oh
Like
yeah,
I remember meeting the entire cast, and everybody there seems like they all just seemed really sweet, really cool, very like genuine people. And so I can imagine working with a crew like that, especially what 4 seasons.
yeah, yeah.
I
We
think you
became
guys probably had a lot of fun.
we became family. Literally,
Yeah.
we became that family, and it's amazing. The casting was so good. The each of us really kind of was that character. There's a lot of us in those characters, And to this day, we still text all the time. Freddie texted me 2 days ago just to send me some stupid meme or something. But we stay in touch all the time, and we're still really, really close. And it actually physically hurts not to see them every week. I really look forward to going in there and laughing together and doing Star Wars stuff. We were all really, really passionate about Star Wars. So yeah, that's something that will last us the rest of our lives. And we all took trips to Skywalker Ranch together and to Lucasfilm, touring the campus there. And
Oh, that's so cool.
yeah, it was amazing. We've gotten to stay at Skywalker Ranch 3 times now, and made friends with everybody there. And Matt Wood, who is their lead sound designer for most Star Wars projects, he's become a really good friend, and he brought me in to do some of the Star Wars movies, and he was directing all of us in that room too. So it's great. Everybody's interconnected there. It's all one giant family. And every time we came up to the ranch or to the studio, Dave Filoni would take time and spend half the day with us and bring us into mixing sessions and watching him choose music and meeting all the special effects people there, and all those names that you see on those Star Wars projects, on every Star Wars project. We got to meet all of them and hang out in their offices and watch them work. It was incredible. You know,
That's really cool.
I don't think my inner fanboy will ever stop screaming.
Yeah, I can only imagine. Yeah, working on such a big project like that, especially working with, I know Dave Filoni, he's like really big into a lot of the projects today.
Yeah.
And just recently at the what was it, the Anaheim celebration, and I got to see the Mandalorian panel.
Oh, lucky.
Wait, no, it wasn't the Mandalorian. It was the Saturday one. It was the one where they showed the Ahsoka clip.
Oh, Ahsoka, yeah.
And it's just funny, like Dave Filoni remains the same person. Like anytime anybody speaks, he just sit there staring at them.
Yeah.
It's like, don't say anything wrong. Don't say anything wrong.
Yeah.
And I know he trained you guys on a certain way of how to say things. So how was it working with Dave Filoni in that aspect?
Oh yeah, I still have the Filoni chip in my neck. So if I say the wrong thing, my head will just eviscerate into a rainbow foam. No, working with Dave was one of the greatest experiences of my life. He's so passionate about carrying on the tradition that George created. He was mentored by George, so it's really, really important to him to stay true to the Star Wars vision, the original Star Wars vision. And that's evident in everything he says and does, and in all of his work. And yeah, I don't get to talk to him as much as I'd like to. We still stay in touch, but working with that guy gave me more insight into Star Wars than I ever thought was possible. He's such a huge fan of the franchise too. That
Oh yeah.
It's authentic. When Dave speaks, it's coming from a very, very authentic place as a fan, and he considers the fandom in everything he does too. He wants it to continue the high quality storytelling, but also have a purpose. He really believes in the Force and in the good that it can bring if people take the lessons from Star Wars. I just had Ashley Eckstein on as my guest teacher in my teaching series and my online teaching series, and she was talking about how working with Dave and that whole crew influenced her in her career. And she has like a whole mindful meditation series that she does through Lucasfilm that's teaching the lessons of Star Wars for kids. And I don't really see that kind of thing in most franchises. The level of care and the value on a societal level of the lessons encapsulated within the Star Wars franchise are timeless, and they're important. And it really is about being selfless and caring about other people and looking for the greater good always.
Yeah, and I remember actually Ashley was on a live stream probably just a few weeks ago, shortly right after Celebration, and she was actually doing one of her bits, and she was talking about like that whole from Empire Strikes Back when Luke goes into the cave.
Oh yeah.
She was doing a whole lesson on that, and I found it super fascinating just on her take on it. It's like I was sitting there listening to it, I was like, man, I never thought about it like that.
Yeah. She lives and breathes Star Wars every single day. She can't not. It's really funny. She is Ahsoka and will always be. It's kind of amazing.
Yeah, you can really tell because I follow her on Instagram and like everything she posts, I'm like, that's cool. That's
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah, and she
And
means it. She's a really good person too. She's awesome. She's really fun.
yeah, that's one thing that I really liked about Rebels is like you can really tell the characters that you guys play
Mm-hmm.
are really genuine. It's like you guys are really emanating your own personal characters into it to really connect with fans.
Yeah, well, that was important. That was important to Dave. And in fact, on a lot of shows, we get a lot of direction to, stay to the script and, don't deviate from anything. But Dave really wanted to hear our input. And most shows, we don't have time for that, for one thing. Or,
Mm-hmm.
the writers are so precious with their materials. But Dave made sure that it was a completely collaborative experience for everyone involved. And if we had an idea, he wanted to hear it and he wanted to try it. And sometimes we would do 10 takes just because we wanted to try things. It was really fun. Or if I
Oh,
felt
that's really cool.
if I felt we needed another Carabast in there, he'd go, yeah, man, do it. I don't know if we'll use it there, but yeah, put it down. Let's do it. Yeah, that was cool.
Oh, yeah, that's really cool. Yeah, because I was actually going to ask you a little bit about your character with Zeb. It's like we see this character of Zeb on screen. We see like this very rough character. He's kind of tough, but he's also soft-hearted.
Hmm.
How much influence did you have on that character? Was it pretty much just written that way?
Well, he was written that way. All the characters were very carefully crafted, but I think they chose us because they kind of got to know us as people before they made the final decisions.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they had a pretty good idea of how we function as humans. Because, like I was saying before, each one of us, there's a lot of us in those characters. But
Mm-hmm.
that said, it was written very specifically first. And then in some cases, they tailored it. They changed the characters around a little bit or would, write a little bit more into an arc if they saw that it was something that was resonating with us.
Mm-hmm.
And but I don't know. I wasn't there for the writing process behind the scenes, but uh, I'd like to think that we were able to add quite a bit to those characters, and we were just trying to pull off the vision that they had created. That's our
Mm-hmm.
job, really. We're not the stars of the show. We're there to realize somebody else's vision. So hopefully we did that effectively.
Very, very true. Very true. So how many different voices did you come up with before you finally settled on the one that we know as Zeb?
um, the very first audition that I did for Zeb was, I believe it was a Cockney accent. So it was
Okay.
actually pretty close to the same voice print that Zeb has, except it was a bit more muddled, that type of thing. Uh, they didn't give us any character designs, but they said he was a creature and he was a warrior. And I was thinking, I'm going to start with something that's sort of orc-like. Um,
Okay.
but they wanted him to speak more clearly. And they, as brutish as he was, they wanted him to be a communicator because they had in their mind later on that he was going to become more of like a brother figure and part of that family, and that he actually
Mm-hmm.
would serve a purpose other than just brute force. So they wanted to kind of clarify his speech, and that's why we tried so many different dialects too. We wanted to make sure that it made sense in the Star Wars universe. You can almost use any dialect in the Star Wars
Hmm.
universe. I mean, we've seen them, a lot of them.
Yeah, I
Um,
believe in like A New Hope. They started off with an English accent.
Yeah,
So
yeah. All of that in the same movie. Things
yeah.
Han, everything changed around. Yeah. So we tried to find something that we could keep consistent. And we tried a bunch of different dialects, but the one that seemed to resonate was really the one that we came up with, which was more of like a South London, maybe a little bit of Australian mixed in.
Okay.
So yeah, so he spoke like this, but you could understand every single word. And they also shot video of us as we were recording, so a lot of the facial expressions were mine.
Oh,
And
really cool.
yeah, and that was really exciting to see in that form. I remember I took my parents to a screening I don't remember what season it was, but we went to Universal Studios and they had a really nice screening. We did a whole red carpet thing. My parents hated going to uh, really anything cartoon oriented, but they sat through that and they really, really liked it. But the one thing that my dad said, we were standing in front of these big statues of our characters, and my dad was looking at him and he goes, I saw some of your face when we were watching that. I saw some of your facial expressions. Did they use some of your facial expressions? And I said, yeah, good eye, good eye. But looking at it, a 7.5, 8 foot tall creature with my facial expressions was a really strange thing. We don't normally get to do that unless we're doing facial capture, motion capture, that sort of thing.
Yeah, very true. I mean, that's actually really cool.
I still wouldn't want to wear the cosplay. Very uncomfortable.
Yeah, I do a Kylo Ren cosplay, and even that's uncomfortable.
Oh God. Yeah. Well,
It gets very sweaty.
I've seen your Kylo Ren. Yeah, it is very sweaty, but add on top of that the prosthetics and the
hmm
stilts, because they have those sort
Oh,
of
that's right, because
backward.
you gotta add the height.
Yeah, he's got prehensile feet and the height of the
hmm
stilts and all that stuff. I've seen people in that cosplay and it's brutal. It's just brutal. So I don't know if he ever does come to on camera. I ain't doing that.
Yeah, that was
Hopefully,
actually gonna be one of my questions. Is like, so we know that Chopper has made it to live action, and
yeah,
with Ahsoka coming up, we're gonna have Hera and Sabine, and I
yeah,
know Ezra's been casted, so we're getting pretty much most of the Ghost crew.
yeah.
Do you think we'll ever get a chance to see the whole crew on screen, or?
Oh, boy can dream. Even if I knew I couldn't tell you, I'd have to kill you.
Oh,
Um,
absolutely.
but yeah, I would do it in a heartbeat. I would certainly prefer to do just voiceover to somebody else's mocap.
hmm
But if they ask me to do it, I'll do it. Oh my God, I'm waiting by the phone. I would love to do that again. Seb was one of my favorite characters of all time. So if I ever had that opportunity again, I'd jump on it.
Okay, yeah, because I know they do that with Pedro Pascal. Like, I know most of the time he was never in costume. He was
Yeah,
working on other projects, and he just did a lot of the voiceover work for it.
yeah, which would make sense for Zeb too. That's
hmm
definitely there's going to be some CGI no matter what they do.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah, so yeah, I mean, if Zeb ever did come to the big screen, hopefully they let me do it. I would love to, or the little screen. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
or
it's
the big screen. Yeah, I do either one or both, please.
absolutely. It's actually really cool because like Zeb kind of like opened the door to that whole species being brought more into the Star Wars universe.
Yeah.
I remember playing Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order,
Oh yeah.
and the Jedi Master to Cal Kestis was a Lasat.
Oh really? I didn't know that. Wow.
Yeah, look on YouTube. Look up Jedi Fallen Order 66, Cal Kestis and his, I forget what his master's called, but you can just see the whole Order 66 scene that plays out while he's trying to protect Cal Kestis as he kind of escapes.
That's amazing.
And it's actually really cool.
Wow, amazing. Well, okay. I have homework now.
There you go.
Awesome.
So you mentioned that Zeb was kind of designed to be a brother character, and we kind of see that a lot into Ezra. Do you think Zeb was a very critical character for Ezra, or do you think Ezra would have turned out different if Zeb wasn't as brotherly as he was?
Oh, I don't know. That's a tough question. I think that's a very tough question. I think all of us were important in Ezra's life.
hmm
Everybody played a different role. I think that Zeb was kind of, the brother that he could joke around with and get in trouble with, but would look after him. So there was that sort of camaraderie with him, and he would teach him a couple things here and there. But I think most of what he learned was from Kanan.
hmm
He really was like a master to him, and Hera was like a mother to him.
hmm
And Sabine was like this cool sister protector also. So I'm sure he learned a lot from her too. I think Zeb was really more for companionship in terms of the relationship with Ezra. They really were like brothers, big brother, little brother
hmm
uh, relationship. And I think it probably did affect him because I think his relationship with Zeb probably gave him a little more confidence.
hmm
Um, because Zeb was such a screw up and he got along just fine anyway. Uh, and yeah, so I'd like to think he had some influence on him, but I think the other characters probably had a deeper overall impact on Ezra's life.
Yeah, I can see that, especially like Kanan, because I know the way that they wrote Kanan. Kanan was a Padawan that survives Order 66, very, I want to say, not confident in his own skills. And then comes across Ezra, who he's like, okay, I see potential here, so I've
Yeah.
got to take on this role. And so you got Kanan struggling with his own things, trying not to screw up with Ezra. And
Yeah.
so he's a little bit harder on Ezra. And so he's got Zeb to kind of like be there as his backup. It's like, okay, all right.
Yeah, Zeb was kind of the comedy relief buffer, I
Mm-hmm.
think, that made it more palatable when things got really tough.
Mm-hmm.
And you're right. Yeah, Kanan was hard on him, but I think that was, part of Kanan just trying to figure stuff out too.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
It was tough trying to figure his place in the universe. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I can really imagine that. Um, like I'm looking at it, it's like I'm trying to figure out like, because everybody usually has like their favorite character, and I'm kind of want to be biased and pick Zeb, but I'm looking at the whole crew, and I'm like, every character has such a unique dynamic
Yeah.
to the whole story that it's really hard to kind of pick like my favorite, who I think would be like, yeah, I like that character more or whatnot.
Yeah. Well, even Chopper was an integral character, like the real famous droids tend to be in
Mm-hmm.
Star Wars. Dave always described him as the cat because he just wouldn't listen to anybody. He wouldn't listen to anybody. He was just going to do what he's going to do. But he played an important role too, and he was a family member as much as anybody else. And I've had so many kids at conventions come up to me, and they'll say, "You're my second or third favorite character. Chopper's my first." And I'm going, "Okay, well, good to be in the top three. I'm all right with that. That's all right."
There you go. Yeah, no, I was gonna say R2's always been my favorite, and I think Chopper's actually a close second on that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, a
I
lot of
really like the whole
personality.
dynamic. A
Yeah,
lot of
so much.
personality. It reminded me a lot of R2, and I think that's why I like him.
Yeah, me too. That was intentional.
Fair enough.
Very intentional.
So what is your favorite Zeb moment?
Ooh, wow. There were so many. Um, Man, that's tough. I love the episode with the Melu runs. That
Okay.
was just ridiculous and fun. That was the first favorite thing I think I had. But I think when Zeb and Callus were trapped on that moon together, uh,
Oh, love that one.
that was some of the most cinematic acting I've ever gotten to do, and I got to work with David on that, the guy who played Callus, in the room, and he's a seasoned, brilliant Shakespearean trained actor, and just to work off somebody like that of that caliber on something that was really subtle and nuanced and quiet for a cartoon was such an amazing experience. It really gave me a chance to dig a little deeper emotionally and try different things with that character that I normally don't get to do. And those nuanced, quiet moments are for me, they're the hardest to do authentically. And so that was a really great challenge, especially working with an actor of that caliber. He's a master. It's great.
Oh yeah, I actually think that's probably one of my favorite arcs of the series, just because it kind of implements the whole thing. It's like, okay, you have these Imperial officers that they're forced into this army, that you would say,
Yeah,
and they really don't know who they are, what they are. They're told what to do. Like, okay,
yeah,
and so he's going in and going, okay, all right, I'm this Imperial officer. I'm an agent that's hunting out these insurgents,
hmm
and that's what defines me. And then
yeah,
he spends that whole time on the moon with Zeb and finds out, oh, okay, so you got these insurgents, they really connect with each other. And he begins to realize, he's like, I don't have that connection with anybody, and starts to
right.
question himself.
Yeah, and then all the horror of what
Mm-hmm.
he's been doing for his whole life comes back to haunt him in those moments.
Mm-hmm.
And then the horror that Zeb had experienced in his life, and they were actually able to bond over something like that, and hopefully come out as better individuals because of that interaction. Because mortal enemies like that don't often have an opportunity to speak like that to one another, and to
Mm-mm.
really break it down for the why, and explain what they're feeling. And they did share that commonality as warriors, with regret and sorrow and horror of what they had experienced before. So they came out of it as friends, and were able to move forward in their lives as well.
Yeah, we get the new Fulcrum.
Yeah, yeah.
which I think is really cool because even I don't know if you've seen Kenobi yet,
Oh yeah, I love it.
which Tala actually reminds me a lot of Callus.
Oh
Because
yeah,
like, because it
yeah,
gets
yeah,
into that whole aspect. She's like, oh, I think Riva's like questioning her. She's like, oh yeah, this isn't who you are, and then Tala's like, this was never who I was. Blah blah. I'm like, okay, all right, cool. So we're starting to see more of like, I want to say it's probably influenced a lot of off of Callus. That was kind of like the opening because we even see Finn turns away from the stormtroopers, and so it's really
yeah,
cool to kind of see the whole side of the Empire being delved more or being flushed out a little bit more. Not
yeah,
everybody's out there for blood. Everybody's just there just because, well, this is the world now. So
yeah, yeah. That's interesting that you said that about that character because I felt that too when I was watching the show, and I was really glad that they took the character in that direction too. It was really cool. I didn't know quite what to expect. I didn't know if there was going to be a quick death or uh, some sort of exposition that
hmm
didn't really explain, but they went there with it, and I love that.
yeah, she's actually one of my favorite characters that came out of the Kenobi series.
Mine too. And a lot of people were hating on her. I don't know why. Unless it
Really,
was
I know a
unless it
lot
was
of people
just
are hating on Riva,
yeah, yeah. But
which I really
yeah.
like. I like the character at the end of it, but I had some issues in the beginning just with how the character's written. But I know a lot of people are like, "Oh, I don't like Riva for this reason, this reason, this reason." I'm like, good. That's how she was written because the Grand Inquisitor didn't like her for that reason. The Fifth
Yeah,
Brother didn't like her for those reasons either. So
yeah.
the writers
Well,
did exactly what they're supposed to do.
sadly some of that hate is based in just pure racism. People just can't get over
Yeah, I saw some
themselves.
of the I saw some of the DMs and it really disheartened me. I'm like, come on, guys.
Yeah, that exists in every
It
fandom,
does, and it's
sadly,
really
and
sad.
yeah, the people just won't give someone a chance. And but yeah, I love that character.
Oh yeah, I thought she did a great job by the end.
Yeah,
She really did what she was supposed to do.
yeah, yeah. It was really cool.
And I have a theory for her because what she survives at the end. I know Kenobi was filmed after Andor, and this is like my own little theory. I don't think there's any weight to it, but I'm wondering if because she had a turn of heart at the end of the series, if she's gonna maybe join the rebellion and have some kind of arc in Andor or something.
Oh, I hope so.
I did too,
That'd be
because
amazing. Yeah, I
well,
like
it's
your
true, because
theory.
yeah, because like I was watching your character, I'm like, okay, I want to see more Kenobi. I think that's where like a lot of my issues where it's like, okay, we're watching Kenobi, I want to see more Kenobi Vader,
Yeah,
and but as her story unfolded, I really liked her at the end. I'm like, man, I really would like to see more of her, and I really hope my theory is correct.
yeah, yeah. Although
But I
the
do know that they're rumored to do a side or a side show off of her.
oh really? Oh, that's cool. That's more than I
It's
know.
it yeah, it's in the rumor territory from some of my Lucasfilm spies. I
Oh,
wouldn't say spies, but like my informants.
sometimes they lead you down the dark path too. So be careful.
They do, and they've been pretty right on a lot of things that I've
Oh,
been hearing. So
cool.
because I pretty much knew how Kenobi was going to turn out based off of what they're saying, and
Uh,
I
I,
was not disappointed.
I'm always the last to know. I don't dig for stuff like that. Rather be surprised.
I try not to, but if
Yeah,
it's there, if it comes out, I'm just like, all right.
yeah. I mean, even when we were recording Rebels, we didn't know what was going to happen at the end. And the last two recording sessions, they only gave us our parts. Dave would hand us like two or three pieces of paper, and
Okay,
we wouldn't get to see the rest of the script. And he'd bring
so
us
you'd
in.
only know your own part, your own
He'd only
dialogue.
know our own part, and he'd only bring us in one or two at a time. And I think um, Tia and Freddie were the only ones who knew how it turned out
hmm
because they had to. But yeah, they had a screening for us at Disney, and that's when we found out for the first time what happened.
Oh
And
dang.
we all just sat there and cried, and oh my God, it was amazing. We watched it as a family. We watched a lot of the premiere episodes as a family too. They would bring us over to a little tiny screening room at Disney, and that's how we
Aw.
experienced it for the first time. So it was
I'll
Dave.
argue to this day, Kanan's sacrifice is probably the most heart wrenching death I've ever seen in Star Wars.
Yeah,
More
yeah.
so than some of the live action stuff. I
Oh,
will argue that.
it was rough. We all of us broke down and cried, except maybe Freddie because he knew. And
Yeah.
Freddie for that whole season when we started that season, Actually, the season before that, he was going, "So, Dave, you gonna kill me yet? When are you gonna kill me? Come on, you gotta kill me." And we were thinking, why would you want him to do that? This is the greatest job of all time. Why would you want to
Yeah.
have your character die? But he's such a Star Wars fan, he wanted it to be an epic death, and he wanted it to be a poignant thing. And he was right. He was absolutely right. It was one of the greatest moments in Star Wars history for me, was to see that scene. Like you said, it was incredibly gut wrenching,
Oh yeah.
and we were so
Because you see Ezra
attached.
running towards him, and he just does force push back into things like, no, get out of here,
Oh,
save yourself.
oh, and
Oh
Hera's
yeah.
face, and oh my God, yeah, that was crazy.
And then the transition to the Force Ghost with him and Hera, and then
Yeah,
not to mention his voiceover in The Rise of Skywalker. That killed me
yep,
too.
yeah, me
I
too.
was like, I was like, yes, yes, go Freddy, go Freddy.
Yep, yeah.
Um, all right, so just a couple last questions.
Okay.
Told you my favorite arcs in Star Wars or in Rebels. What was your favorite arc to play?
Favorite arc to play in Rebels?
Yeah, just like the whole arc. I know you mentioned like you really like the Melu run, but
Oh, yeah. Well, the Melu run that just struck a funny chord in me, just because of the pronunciation issues that Star Wars has struggled with for so many
oh,
years.
okay,
And we spent like an hour with a whiteboard with them trying to phonetically show us how to say Melu run so we wouldn't screw it up. we
fair
spent that much
enough.
we spent that much time on a fruit that was being introduced in the Star Wars universe, so that was really fun for me. Um, I just stylistically and visually, I loved the Purgle
Oh
episode.
yes.
Also, that was just crazy. It was so beautifully rendered,
Mm-hmm.
and I just remember talking to the designers when they were putting that stuff together, and talking about how epic that was going to be. As we read it in the script, and we were all imagining what these space whales would look like. But to see that happen, and that was kind of the genesis of warp drive and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It was crazy, all the stuff that they built into that, and Ezra's connection with them. Um, I'm such a nature freak anyway. I love being in nature more than anything. And living in Hawaii now, whale season was one of the greatest moments of my life, was to see them right offshore. So to see
Oh
something
wow.
like that in the Star Wars universe that was actually integral to the story. It wasn't there just for show and another creature. That was
Mm-hmm.
really amazing to me. And it's not something everybody connects with, but for me personally, that was awesome. Just as a fan, I loved it.
Hey, and that's one of the cool things about the Star Wars universe is, or just the franchise in general. Is like everybody can connect to certain things in different ways,
Yeah,
and that's
yeah,
what's beautiful about it.
yeah. Well, and also I think the other thing that I really loved was the episodes with the clones.
Oh
When
yeah.
when they were in the walker, and I was being used as Jupa bait. That was just hilarious. And working with Dee and getting to watch Dee Bradley Baker do the voices of the individual clones and how different they were, and especially in this later incarnation,
Mm-hmm.
he really got a chance to flesh them out differently, especially as older men.
Like Gregor
Um,
and Wolf, crazy.
Oh God, it was just so much fun to watch him as a fan, just to watch Dee do that in real time. It was
Mm-hmm.
amazing. It was just amazing.
Oh, man,
Yeah.
that's really cool.
Yeah, some of my favorite moments of the show were just being a fan and just sitting between my lines, just watching people do their thing and thinking, "Oh my God, this is so cool. The fans are going to love this." That's all I was thinking at
And
times.
that's actually a really cool perspective to hear too, because a lot of people like look at the show. Oh yeah, this was a cool arc. This was a cool arc, but to see it from like behind the scenes perspective, that's really cool.
Yeah, and then not to know what it's going to look like. They would
Mm-hmm.
show us Dave is an artist. He's a storyboard artist, and sometimes he would actually come into the room and he would draw an image. He was trying to explain something to us and we weren't quite getting it. He would draw the whole scene right in front of us in real time. And
Oh
so
wow.
we'd see that, and then we get to sit as a family and watch it in the studio, in a little theater together once
Mm-hmm.
it's all fleshed out with the music and the effects and everything else. And we were screaming because it was so cool. It was just so cool to see all that fleshed out.
Oh,
And at the
absolutely.
and at the at Lucasfilm also, like I was mentioning before, we got to watch some of the music spotting sessions with Dave, and he was choosing music and placing music, and watching the effects designers and some of the things that they were doing behind the scenes, and seeing how that fleshed out. There was one moment where I think it was Joel Aaron, one of the special effects guys, was telling us about this blast that was hitting one of the Imperial cruisers, and they couldn't afford the kind of effects that they had in the movies, and they only had like 2 weeks to do it, where they had like a year to create an effect in the original movies.
Mhm.
And he would take like steel wool and light it on fire outside and film it, and then put it into his computer and mix that with CGI, and it had this insane effect of a blast hitting the ship and then sort of fizzling out to the sides. And he would do that with a practical effect.
That's
And
actually really cool.
to get to see that fleshed out, after the fact, was, as a fan, it was just an amazing thing to witness.
I think that's actually really cool, being able to see like practical effects being used in animation.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, it was so
I
cool.
never even thought about that.
Yeah, there wasn't a lot of that, but some of it they just had to make because they just didn't have the budget or the time, and they knew just from their experience in practical effects that they could make this stuff work, and tried it, and most of it did. So it was pretty cool.
Very cool. All right, so let me ask one more question,
Sure.
and this is gonna be a very tough question for you.
Uh-oh.
What's your favorite film from the franchise? Any trilogy?
That's not a hard question for me. It's the very first movie. Because I was there. I saw A New Hope in 1977, May of 1977. I was just out of high school. And was it May? I think it was May. Yeah. Just finishing up high school, my last year of high school, and I was an apathetic teen, angry at the world, didn't really care about anything. And I walked into this theater not knowing what it was. And I just remember sitting there, and I think it was the first time THX sound was used.
It
Sitting
was.
there, and the Imperial Destroyer comes across the scene in the very opening of it, and the whole theater rumbled. You could feel it in your bones. It was crazy. We didn't have anything like that until that time. It was just a mind-bending experience, and then just completely getting absorbed into the adventure of it, and the camp and the humor and everything else. I had never seen anything else like that, and it actually made me care about something again for the first time in my young life. I was just over everything, like a lot of teenagers are, and had a bad high school experience and stuff. And I wanted something to care about, and that was the thing. And I think I watched it probably 4 or 5 times that weekend. I kept
Oh
sneaking into
wow.
would sneak back into the theater, or go to the bathroom or something, come back in. And I think I watched it 4 or 5 times that weekend, and that's probably the only movie I've ever watched that many times. So that was my gateway. So that will always be my favorite, no matter what they do.
Very cool. Very cool.
But that said, I would have to say that Rebels, whether I was part of it or not, was the first thing in the Star Wars franchise that made me feel the same way, because it explained so many things for me that I had wondered about all those years in between. It was great connective tissue for the franchise for me, and the feel and the humor and the family relationships. That's what the original Star Wars really was about for me. So Rebels brought all of that back, and I just remember that feeling was very familiar, and felt like coming home. So it was just amazing to be part of it after so many years.
I'd say I'd have to say the same thing, because like a lot of people, like when you compare Rebels, I'm like, the Rebels really reminds me of all the original movies that came out. It had the same feel, the same style.
Yeah.
The mystery, the Force was there, especially when we get into the what's it? Forget his name. It was the in between of the Ashla and the Bogan. I think it was. I forget his name.
I'm brain farting too. I can't.
Starts with the B. I know that, but
Yeah, I don't know.
when they jumped into all that, like the Gray Jedi. I know they don't use Gray Jedi. I know it's not canon, but that's what it kind of reminded me of. Like they answered like so many different questions of in between 3 and 4, and just
Yeah.
how the Jedi were, just how the Rebel started, and just seeing like the Rebel just begin, like starting with you have the Ghost Crew just kind of doing their own thing. They're on Lothal, and then they move into the Phoenix Squadron and see that's much bigger than what they thought.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
so it just kind of brings in the whole rebellion and kind of connects you all into the original trilogy. And I'm like, oh, this is so cool. This is so cool.
Yeah. It's amazing. It's and everybody there have been so many offshoots that they indicate that isolation. You know that there's something bigger going on in some cases, but you don't really experience it until you do. And like in Rogue One, that was just one of those the sacrifice that these people made for the greater good of some stuff that they didn't even understand out there. It's crazy. It's just really crazy. So,
and that's why I'm excited for Andor to kind of explain a little bit more of that too.
Yeah.
But,
bring it all on. I got my popcorn ready.
I know, I'll eat it all up.
Yeah.
All right, so I think that's going to end our session tonight. I really appreciate you joining us tonight and being able to connect with the Star Wars community.
All right, cuz, thanks for bringing me in. So good to talk to you again. It's been way too long.
Absolutely, and we definitely need to make a call before sometime soon and just kind of just like catch up in general.
That'd be great. I would love that.
But yeah, thanks again for joining me. I know you've got a busy schedule, so
my pleasure.
All right, guys, thanks for listening. We love the support from you guys and just keeping our fire going. So as always, check the description below and check out our link tree. We have awesome collectibles from entertainmentearth.com where you can find basically any collectible you're searching for, and we have links to specific ones we have our own eyes on. Also, follow us on Instagram and Twitter to get daily updates and memes. Join our Discord, join our community of fans. We are always having discussions, just basically Star Wars or basically just any type of discussion. So just come in and join our community. We'd love to have you. Yeah. So, and we have been also designing our own shirts. So Link to Archer Spring is in our link tree as well. We've worked hard to design these for you guys. And we know that you'll enjoy them as much as we do here. So tons of stuff to interact with. Also, we have a special campaign going, so be sure to check out our Instagram for a special Lego set that we are excited about. We hope you guys enjoy the rest of your day.
And may the Force and the Ashla be with you.
Always.
Caravas.